Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 880B, and today's date is January 29th, 2016, and the title of the episode is The World is Now 3 Minutes to Doomsday. Let's get into the economic collapse, political, and geopolitical news. Now, at this point, people are starting to realize that global warming is a complete hoax. I did an interview with James Corbett. You can see that on the X22 Report Spotlight, which we talked about, the climate change and global warming. Now, the climate is always changing. And the issue is the people of this planet, are they changing the climate so drastically that we need to take action? And we see that a lot of these numbers are fudged, manipulated to prove their case. And right now, 300 scientists, they've sent a letter to lawmakers warning the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA, that they may have violated federal laws when they published a 2015 study which basically said global warming took a little break. And what they're saying right now is they kind of manipulated the numbers. And the letter went as follows. We, the undersigned, scientists, engineers, economists, and others, who have looked carefully into the effects of carbon dioxide released by human activities, wish to record our support for the efforts of the Committee of Science, Space, and Technology to ensure that the federal agencies complied with federal guidelines that implemented the Data Quality Act. Some 300 scientists, engineers, and other experts wrote to Chairman of the House Science Committee, Texas Republican Lamar Smith. And they're saying that, in their opinion, NOAA has failed to observe the Office of Management and Budget guidelines, which is the Data Quality Act. The Data Quality Act requires federal agencies like NOAA to maximize the quality, objectivity, utility, and integrity of information, including statistical information. So right now they're doing an investigation into NOAA. And what they're saying is that they need to use this data, and we should be able to repeat whatever steps they took to get their information. That's the scientific method. Give us the raw data and let us use it to repeat your experiment. Now, Bob Tisdale, a meteorologist, and Anthony Watts, they decided to look at this data, and they said if we subtract the old data from the new data, we can see that what is exactly what NOAA did. It's the same story. The adjustments go towards cooling the past and thus increasing the slope of temperature rise. Their intent and methods are so obvious, they're laughable. They manipulated the data. And this is all part of Obama's agenda, because what they really want to do is place a carbon tax on the people and control the people. This is what it's all about. So we can see already a lot of these agencies get a lot of grants, they're paid off, and they are pushed into reporting what the politicians want for their agenda. We see Zika, which we mentioned a couple reports ago, is spreading, and we mentioned about the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, who was experimenting on GMO mosquitoes carrying the Zika virus, and all of a sudden it started to spread in Brazil. And is this a coincidence? Well, I don't believe in coincidences. But right now, the World Health Organization, which we thought was going to happen, is now predicting that 4 million infections are going to occur in America, and it might even go higher than that. I'm waiting for the CDC to come out with their computer models, because this is what they always do when they want to push vaccines. They want to scare everyone, and they want to push the scare as hard as they possibly can. Now, out in Anaheim, around Disneyland in California, we see that the police admitted that they are using dirt-boxed surveillance equipment devices on aircraft to track mobile phone activity. And they only acknowledged this after the ACLU documents revealed this. So basically, they're flying around spying on all the people. And of course, we know this is what they do. The police are violating everyone's rights by doing this. They need a warrant to collect the information. This is your information. Now we see the FBI, they released a video of LaVoy Finicum getting shot, and we see that certain things occurred when this happened. Now, those people who haven't seen the video, you can go on the X22Report.com site, just go to Sentinel Alerts today, scroll down a little bit, you'll see the video. And the first thing that pops out is there's no sound. So you don't know what's really going on because you don't hear people speaking. All you're seeing is the visual and what they want you to see, because they've already made a suggestion that he was going for a weapon. So of course, in your mind, this is what you're seeing. But there's no sound, which makes it very difficult to understand what's really going on because you don't know what they're saying. Now, the FBI was all prepared, and they had a drone flying overhead with a camera to film the entire thing. And in the beginning of the video, we see that the vehicle was stopped. And it was stopped there for a couple minutes. We don't know what was going on at this point. We know the FBI might have contacted them on the cell phone. We don't know what was said. We don't know exactly what was happening. And then all of a sudden the vehicle sped off. Very interesting. The FBI set up a roadblock. Now, the roadblock wasn't on a straightaway piece of the road, because if you're driving up to it, you'd be able to see the roadblock and you'd be able to back up and turn around. Everyone knows what I'm talking about, especially when the police set it up to check your registration. If you see them ahead, most people say, oh, I'm not going through that. They're going to check my license, my registration, and those people, who don't have that prepared and ready, they kind of back up and turn around. So this was done on a curve. So they set up a roadblock a couple 100 feet after a curve. Now, I don't know if any of you have driven down a road and you go around a curve, and I have, and I hit a deer because as soon as I got around the curve, I had no time to react. The deer was right in front of me. Boom, I hit it. And of course, it smashed my car. But they saw the roadblock, and they're driving in an SUV, slammed on the brakes, had to run off the road into a snowbank. And the car just stopped. Now, the roadblock was made up of 2 pickup trucks and 1 SUV with flashing lights on top. The men standing there, and normally I see FBI jackets with bright yellow FBI so everyone knows who they are. This time we don't see this, which is very odd. So identification was very poor because they were 2 pickup trucks, an SUV, and at this point they might not know what's going on. And all they see is a lot of men holding weapons. Now, what was said, we don't know at this point. We don't know what was going on because there's no sound. We see LaVoy allegedly get out of the vehicle. He walked over, his hands were up. Now, everyone is saying, yes, he reached over and he grabbed a weapon. Well, you know this for sure? I don't know. The camera was very far away. Yes, he went to his side. But what was he really doing? What was said at this point? Because he came out with his hands up. Did the police say, did you have a weapon? He might have said yes, because as he brought his hands down a little bit, he brought him back up a little bit. Slowly take the weapon out. Maybe he was reaching for it to do this. And then all of a sudden he heard someone coming up from behind him. Now he had no balance on the snow. The snow was deep. And he looked like he was having trouble getting around. He turned around as he was grabbing his side. Now, was he shot? Because why would he keep his weapon all the way on the other side? Now, he's in a winter jacket. That's not easy to grab a weapon quickly, especially when you see 5 or 6, 7 people pointing weapons at you. You really think you're that fast with a winter jacket on, unbalanced in the snow, to take all these people out? So was he really grabbing for a weapon? We don't know. There's no sound. So the man pops out of the woods. He looks startled. He turns around, and all of a sudden he was shot. Now, the others didn't jump out of the vehicle. They stayed in there. And all of a sudden we see flashbangs all around the car. And later in the video, when you look at the driver's side door, which is very strange, there's two sets of footprints in the snow leading up to the vehicle side door. One which was, you can see LaVoy walking over to that area where he was shot. Then there's another set of footprints. Where did that come from? How did that appear? Was this video spliced in a certain way? Are we missing a piece? Because something is very odd about this. So the question is, does this really constitute murdering someone? I mean, the whole thing was a peaceful demonstration. They have no violent background. They weren't running around shooting people. On their way to a talk. And I don't know if this really constitutes murdering someone at this point. Now, out in Ukraine, we see Kiev's allies. They keep sending them military vehicles and military assets. And very interestingly, these assets seem to disappear. Between the period of November 29, 2015 and January 24, 2016, the Ukrainian army lost 300 units of heavy military weaponry, including artillery rocket systems. Where did they go? Nobody knows. Are these going to be used in the offensive or a false flag to get something started? Did they hand these off to the mercenaries that are coming into the country, which are English speaking? We're going to have to watch this situation very closely to see what happens. We see out in Libya, health minister has requested the World Health Organization to declare a state of emergency in the country because 60 to 70% of the hospitals have closed down because of all the wars that have occurred in Libya. And actually, if you look at Libya, Yemen, Lebanon, Iraq, Syria, all these countries look the same. The United States, with their coups d'etats and the wars in each one of these countries to hold on to the petrodollar, has destroyed all of these countries. Now, Germany is waiting for a unity government to be formed before they discuss the issue of deploying troops and helping out in Libya. Defense Secretary Ash Carter, he is building the case right now that the Islamic State is consolidating their own footprint in Libya. They're setting up training sites in Libya. And we're starting to see the same thing in Libya that we saw in Syria and in Iraq. And we cannot let this happen. We know what they're building up to here. We know why they're out there pushing this meme. Obama, he came out and he is directing his national security advisors, which was yesterday, Thursday, to counter efforts by the Islamic State to expand into Libya and other countries. I wonder what that means. It means we're going to invade. That's what he's setting up right now. Everything is in place. They've been planning this. They've been preparing for this. We're just waiting for the big bang, and they'll be going into Libya. They'll be going into Iraq. They'll be going into Syria. All of this is being built up for a major ground invasion in this entire area. Right now, Russia is continually hitting the Islamic State, hitting Al-Qaeda, hitting the other terrorist organizations, and they are running. Turkmen who are in Syria have escaped into Turkey, back into Turkey, because of the bombing from Russia. Mohammed Mustafa in Turkey says Russia was hitting so hard we had to leave the area. Now, the Pentagon is looking to get more troops into Iraq and Syria. They want to bring in another 800 or more. And believe me, it's going to be a lot more. And we're definitely seeing mission creep at this point. Because we're always saying, oh, we just need another 300. And these are advisors, by the way. These aren't troops. We need another 500. We need another 800. But of course, we know they're all in combat. So basically, they need to do this in this fashion because they don't have the authorization for war. They don't have the legislation passed to say, okay, you can bring in the troops. So they have to do it slowly. They have to pretend that it's advisors, that it's for training, it's for everything else but for combat. But we know what's really going on here. The Syrian peace talks. Well, it seems like this is completely falling apart right now. The main opposition group, they're not attending. Now, they're still trying to hold the Syrian peace talks, but they're missing one of the main groups. And they refuse to take part in the talks. And they're saying, we refuse until an agreement is reached on aid entering besieged towns. So right now, their absence has threatened to derail the talks. Now, was this done on purpose? Do they really want peace? Because they could have discussed this within the confines of the talks. But it seems like the Saudi-backed terrorists, the U.S.-backed terrorists, they don't want peace. They don't want a ceasefire. They don't want any of this. Now, Stephen Ledman is out there, and he wrote a very interesting article where he says the U.S. and Turkey, they're planning to attack Russia with the Islamic State. He's saying that Washington wants Russia marginalized, weakened, destabilized, contained, and isolated. And they want Russia's sovereign independence destroyed. Well, this is what they've done to every other country. And right now, Russian special services, they're saying they have intelligence that something is being planned. The Islamic State, which is the proxy army for the United States government central bankers, they're picking up communications that they're preparing attacks in Russia and other European nations. They're basically preparing for an event. This is what is being picked up right now. Because we know these peace talks are not going to go forward. We know that the United States has special op teams in Libya, in Syria. They're setting up an air base in Syria. They've carving out a safe zone in Syria. They're getting countries together to go into Syria during the peace talks to help with the bombing of the Islamic State, which we know this is not what they're doing. All of this is in preparation for what is coming, and this is going to be a huge event that's going to occur in the Middle East. Because as soon as these talks break down, as soon as Assad says, I'm not stepping down, and the U.S. has nothing else on their agenda, all hell is going to break loose in the Middle East. And this is why we're 3 minutes to doomsday right now. The central bankers, the United States government, they are desperate. They have nothing left. The economy is collapsing. They need to retake the Middle East or everything falls apart right now. This is why they're making this play. This is why they've been preparing. This is why the president is out there calling the coalition forces to go into Libya, to go into Iraq, to go into Syria, because we know it's not going to stop with one country. And what does this mean? It means we're getting very close to war. It means we're waiting for the Big Bang. And can the United States fight a war with Russia and with China and with North Korea? Because most of the equipment the United States has is kind of, it's garbage. The F-35, the new littoral ships, nothing's working. Russia has proven they have advanced weaponry that actually works. And what should make everyone nervous is that when the United States starts to lose the war, it will go nuclear, because that's all they have left. And this is why the Doomsday clock is now 3 minutes to midnight. Because we're starting to realize what is happening here. That all these things are starting to merge together to form this perfect war scenario that the United States government central bankers want so bad. And we can see they're preparing, they're getting ready to push this to the next level. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.